This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto on this digital Sportscentre presented by Montana's Barbecue and Bar. And it's an off day at the Four Nations Face-Off, so it's time to turn our attention to the most anticipated game of the event, Canada versus the United States. These two countries have had a number of battles on the ice over the years. They've faced off a total of 19 times in best-on-best tournaments, and the Canadians have an impressive 14-4-1 record in those games. Will that success continue tomorrow night? Recent history suggests that the Americans might have an edge, because goaltending has been a huge factor in the past few games. For instance, back in the preliminary round for the 2010 Olympics, the Americans got the best of the Canadians 5-3, in a game where Canadian goaltender Martin Brodeur allowed 4 goals in just 22 shots. In that same game, American goaltender Ryan Miller turned aside more than 40 shots en route to a victory. Goaltending was also a huge factor in their semi-final matchup 4 years later, where Carey Price pitched a shutout in their 1-0 Canadian victory. Now this brings us back to tomorrow's matchup, where the Americans seem to have the edge between the pipes, as Jordan Binnington struggled at times in Canada's opening game, where Connor Hellebuyck thrived in his. So with that in mind, it's not surprising that the Americans are favored to win the entire tournament. But don't worry, Canadian fans. Even if Team USA gets the win tomorrow night, history would be on Canada's side for a potential rematch. The last time Canada lost to the United States was the preliminary round of the 2010 Olympics. And we all know what happened in the rematch. Just breathe in, manifest the golden goal, because our golden boy is on the ice. Now, all that said, we should expect a tight game on Saturday. Even the odds makers cannot pick a winner. Our friends at FanDuel have tomorrow's game at a dead heat. It's a pick 'em on the money line, and they're slightly leaning toward Canada on the puck line. To help us tee up tomorrow's game, we are joined by one of our all-time favorite guests, Mark Masters. How's Montreal been treating you?
Best on best hockey brings out the best in me, Marissa.
It's been a long time since we've seen Canada versus USA in best on best hockey. Where does this rank on your list of biggest games you've covered? And what are you expecting from this game Saturday?
Well, it's got to be high on the list. I mean, Canada, the United States, Saturday night in Montreal. The stakes are so high. The wait has been so long. Drew Doughty saying today that that's only added to the anticipation and energy heading into this one. It's going to be special for everyone in the building, including the reporters. I feel lucky to be here. In terms of what I expect the best rivalry in international hockey to deliver a special moment.
Mark, you are no stranger to the Montreal crowd. They have made it very clear how they feel about the Americans. So how much of a factor do you think the crowd will play on Saturday?
Well, the American anthem got some boos here last night, and that is hanging over everything heading into this game on Saturday. Some of the American players saying that motivated them last night. Austin Matthews was booed every time he touched the puck in the game last night. He said that doesn't bother him. He sees it almost as a sign of respect, and he said that there are a lot of players in the American dressing room who like being the villain, and I got to think he's thinking of the Tkachuk brothers when he says that. Those two were excellent last night. They certainly seem to thrive in hostile environments. It can work the other way. Of course, Sweden looked a little tentative, a little nervous early in that game Wednesday, perhaps thrown off by the atmosphere, but I think ultimately, Marissa, both teams are going to really be fueled by the energy in this building on Saturday night.
Mark Masters, great stuff as always. Thank you for joining us.
I'm just glad no one's booing me, Marissa.
That's how you know it's going to be good, okay? When Mark Masters is on the show, it's going to be a show. Buckle up, baby. NBA All-Star Weekend is upon us, and it's going to look a little different than it has in years past. The festivities kick off tonight with the Rising Stars, where 4 teams will duke it out in a mini tournament. Canadian basketball will be well represented. Toronto's Zach Edey will suit up for Team C. Thornhill's Leonard Miller will play for the G League team. And Raptors guard Grady Dick will make his All-Star Weekend debut for Team T. The winner of the Rising Stars tournament will get an actual spot in the All-Star Game Sunday. In a new format for 2025, the 24 NBA All-Stars have been split up into 3 teams: the OGs, the Young Stars, and the Global Stars. And they'll compete against the winners of the Rising Stars in a mini tournament. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the only Canadian named to an All-Star roster, but he headlines a stacked Global Stars team that features the top MVP candidates in the NBA. And SGA is one of the favorites to take home a little hardware with him from All-Star Weekend too. Only Steph Curry has shorter odds to win All-Star MVP on FanDuel. Which is like, aren't you proud, Canada? Aren't you so proud we got a Canadian up there in lights? Of course you can catch the All-Star game here on Sunday on TSN. The NASCAR Cup Series returns this weekend, and there's no easing into a new season on the track. The drivers will be putting the pedal to the metal Sunday to kick off the season with the biggest race of the year, the Daytona 500. To break down all the biggest storylines from this weekend's race, we're joined by our racing guy, Lukas Wacker. Welcome on back to DSC, Lukas. Now, what storylines do you have your eye on for this weekend's race?
Great to see you again, Marissa. Like you said, this is the big one, the Daytona 500. So let's look ahead as to what to watch for on Sunday. On Thursday night in the duels, we had some great storylines where some drivers raced their way in, namely Junior Motorsports with Justin Allgaier behind the wheel. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will have a Cup Series entry racing on Sunday for the very first time. If you know the sport of NASCAR, you know the Earnhardt name. So this is a massive deal for the sport. Junior Motorsports, Dale Jr., everyone involved, and I can't wait to see what they are able to do with that number 40 car in the Great American Race. You've got Jimmy Johnson, Martin Truex Jr., Corey LaJoie, and then Helio Castroneves getting that 41st entry, the first time we've had a 41st driver enter this race in quite some time. So really looking forward to seeing how an IndyCar driver fares in a NASCAR Cup Series race on Sunday. But as for the rest of the field, one name is sticking out amongst the rest, and that is Kyle Busch. This is his 20th time entering the Daytona 500, and if you know the sport, you know the iconic call from Mike Joy saying 20 years of trying, 20 years like Dale Earnhardt did back in 1998 when he won his first Daytona 500 in his 20th attempt. So Kyle Busch is definitely a name to keep your eye on. If he can repeat history driving for Richard Childress, the same team that Dale Sr. won it with, it would be an awesome story for the sport. But amongst the rest of the field, it's anyone's race, and that's why everyone wants to win the Daytona 500.
Okay, prediction time. Who's kicking off their season in victory lane?
Oh, Marissa, you always put me on the spot with this, but I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney to win the Daytona 500. I think he gets it done. He's always so good on the super speedway style of tracks, and I think he's due. He's been runner-up in this race numerous times, and I think it's time for him to break through. The 2023 Cup Series champion is the 2025 Daytona 500 champion.
Lukas, my friend, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Marissa. Enjoy the race on Sunday.
You can watch the Daytona 500 Sunday on TSN. I don't know about you, but with the NHL on hiatus and the NBA All-Star break getting underway, my TV schedule is wide open. Luckily for all of us, White Lotus Season 3 premieres this Sunday on Crave. I was lucky enough to go to the Canadian premiere this week, so let me take you with me in another edition of Roberto on the Go. The White Lotus Season 3 premiere that Crave put on was extra special because it was happening in the middle of a snowstorm. All of us in Toronto desperate to be in Thailand at the White Lotus. We just saw the first episode, only one. I'm hoping they all drop on Sunday, but yeah, we gotta binge that. The episode starts with the classic White Lotus foreshadowing that of course I cannot give away. You will have to watch on Sunday. Afterwards, we had a little bit of food, some Thai-inspired food. And even though we know not all is well at the White Lotus, I would still rather be there than in the snowstorm. I am so jealous of everybody getting to watch the first episode for the first time on Sunday. The way the season has teed itself up, oof, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot going on. And if you don't already subscribe to Crave, that's wild because think of all the shows that you've missed up until this point. But right now you can get the Crave TSN bundle for as little as $21.99. Hit it! Hello, what are we missing? You know that you want to watch The Penguin. You know that you want to watch The Last of Us. I don't know. Just get on it. I'll see you there. Time now for my favorite segment and yours, that we love sports today.
Why we love sports today.
And I think every parent will tell you that having kids has its pros and cons, or at least that's what I hear. For example, pro, adorable tobogganing adventures. Or, lack of a toboggan. A snowsuit works. All right, now let's look at one of the cons. Temper tantrums.
Go!
As someone who doesn't have a child, how do you even deal with that? Like, what's the punishment for that? Do you just let them figure it out, or take away video games? I need to know. And as I've discovered this entire segment, I do not have children, but I do have one pro to add to this. Kids, hilariously, but not seriously, hurting themselves.
My name is Lily.
I know, Lily. How old are you?
I'm 3.
Okay, let's see what's up, dude.
I missed.
See, that's so hardcore pro. He tried something new, he didn't do it, didn't hurt himself, didn't have a tantrum. We move on. That's it for me today. We'll see you right back here Monday. Enjoy your very hockey, very basketball, very White Lotus weekend.